that I think is kind of a little bit under the radar and could have pretty catastrophic effects. The probability of that, the hope is we maintain it so it's not catastrophic. I think probability is high that we'll see those type of attacks. We've seen a number of examples in history of just being able to manage the impact of it to date. So let's hope we keep managing the impact of those type of attacks.
And letting our imaginations run away with ourselves a little bit more. Let's say 5 years from now, there's a global cyber attack, changes everything overnight. What role would you feel that DataTribe and maybe your startups played in preventing or responding to it?
Yeah. Now, Jay, we're getting dark here, right? What are all the catastrophic possible ways that things could go bad?
This is the Secure Cyber Connect podcast with Jay Addison and Warren Atkinson, where we're joined by information, cybersecurity, technology, and talent acquisition professionals who share their journeys, unique perspectives, and offer advice and guidance. Our topics on this episode will be the current state of the VC investment landscape. Today, we're thrilled to be joined by Leo Scott. Leo is the managing director at DataTribe, one of the most unique and quietly powerful forces within early-stage cybersecurity and deep tech investing. Since launching in 2016, DataTribe has operated with a bold vision to bring Silicon Valley's venture playbook to the DC area and fuse it with the world's most concentrated pool of cybersecurity talent. Their model is hybrid, part venture fund, part startup studio, and entirely hands-on. Their very first investment, a then little-known three-person company called Dragos, which is, of course, now a billion-dollar OT cybersecurity unicorn. Leo knows this journey intimately. Three-time startup CTO turned investor, Leo has helped guide companies from founding to acquisition and now helps others do the same, not from the sidelines, but in the trenches. Under his leadership, DataTribe recently closed its third fund with $41 million and has co-built 19 companies, including standout names such as Strider Technologies and BlackCloak. What set DataTribe apart is its operating DNA. They don't just write checks, they embed teams with co-built products, over-resource founders in their earliest stages, and as Leo puts it himself, the best founders are both relentless and coachable. That's the magic combination. He brings decades of experience, hard-earned wisdom, and a deep understanding of what it takes to build enduring companies in one of the most complex and critical sectors of our time. Leo, welcome to the Secure Cyber Connect podcast, and thank you for joining us. This has been an episode we've been looking to do for a long time, so it's great to have you here with us today at last.
Yeah, thanks so much for that great intro, Jay. It's great to be here, and I look forward to our conversation.
And as Jay mentioned, we've really been looking forward to today, Leo. I think that you've had a really exciting journey, obviously transitioning from more of a technical role at early years through to leading organizations. So we do commend you and the team for your contributions. And before we get into today's session, could you give the audience perhaps a high-level overview of some of the key topics and themes that we're going to discuss today?
Certainly, yeah. So as you mentioned in the intro with DataTribe, we're in cybersecurity venture, and so we see a lot of interesting trends. And so I think one of the things we'll cover today is some of the current trends and challenges in cybersecurity and where things are going from there. I think we'll dive deep into the dynamics of building startups. The importance of the founding teams and how you go about identifying and then building a great startup, and how to foster an ecosystem around that, which is something that we focus a lot on at DataTribe. And finally, we'll follow up on a big event we have coming up later this year with our DataTribe Challenge, and we'll touch on that and I'm sure cover many other topics as well along the way. So,
no, it's certainly going to be a fascinating session, both for our audience, our network, founders, innovators, and of course investors out there. And could you share with us perhaps a significant challenge that you faced in your career that shaped your views and perspective on cybersecurity, Leo?
Yeah, certainly. So I'm no longer a spring chicken. So I've been around a while and actually, really grew up before the internet, and then started my career with the internet. So pre-internet, there really wasn't, cybersecurity was almost not really a thing. What is cybersecurity if you don't actually have the digital world? So growing up, and you saw the very beginnings of the thought of cybersecurity with, kind of classic 1980s movies like War Games and the very beginnings of the realization that hackers could cause troubles on just networks that weren't even public back then. But with the beginning of my career, I spent a whole career building companies, really software companies that were not necessarily focused on cybersecurity. So, the big challenge that I was always focused with was building. It really often, in startups, you're looking to grow fast, find product market fit quickly. That was really the challenge. How do we find a problem that a lot of people need and solve that problem quickly, roll out software quickly, build great user experience and so on. And so that focus for my career really kind of highlights the fact when you look at cybersecurity, a really important aspect to cybersecurity is that it needs to be able to make things more secure without getting in the way. So really, the user experience, kind of the experience that people have with any type of cybersecurity experience, cybersecurity solution, needs to be focused on making it as easy as possible for them to use the cyber solution. Many times, I think we see today and in the past where yes, I think some cybersecurity professionals can get really focused on making sure things are secure, but it also gets in the way of progress of kind of the first focus of a company to kind of build the product that they're there to build. And so that is that's something that I bring to the table based on my past experience when working with cybersecurity companies. And we can get into even further, in specific areas like authentication and other things, where you really can see examples of how cybersecurity can, the adoption of a solution is maybe even more important than making it maximally secure. Authentication, you see, we get people to jump through a lot of hoops where you got a MFA here and you've got to do a CAPTCHA there, and 5 steps later maybe we'll let you log in. You want to continually look at ways to make that experience as streamlined as possible to encourage people to use it. So.
I certainly agree with you, and that's where we've seen organizations in terms of the end user really pick that partner that's got that ease of access, ease of deployment and onboarding, and of course use. And typically we see startups only getting to that stage when they reach a stage of maturity. But those that perhaps put that UX at the forefront of what they're doing, of course, and security, are able to get out of the blocks a lot faster.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. It's if you have the most secure system but no one uses it, or they find ways around it to be able to try to get their job done, then it's no longer providing the security. So.
And Leo, before we kind of get into a bit more about DataTribe's pretty unique model, let's talk a little bit about more big picture kind of questions, if you will. And I suppose if there was one maybe catastrophic cybersecurity failure that the world isn't been prepared for yet or hasn't seen coming, what do you think it will be? How and maybe if you can prophesize, how close do you think we are to it happening?
Yeah, scary times, right? Yeah, it's interesting. Let me think. There's an area that a lot of people are very afraid of, although I do think that they're focused on it. So I'll start. Maybe I'll start with critical infrastructure, physical security. So there's an area of cybersecurity where the digital world touches the physical world, and there starts to be interaction. This area is in a space. Often people talk about OT, or operational technology. Also, words like industrial control systems. This is where things that may be on the internet but are certainly on networks are starting to control through programmable logic arrays and other technology, control motors and other things that have impact in the physical world. there's a lot of talk about ways that those critical infrastructure, physical infrastructure companies like power and energy, water utilities, these type of companies, how they could be impacted by a cyber attack. And because it impacts the physical world, and people can tangibly picture, oh, what happens if there's a cyber attack, and power stations are shut down, and next thing you know, London or New York City is all dark. That sounds pretty scary, and so that certainly is on people's radars. That oftentimes when we're talking about kind of nation state driven cyber attacks, that's a big concern. But there is a less tangible, a little bit under the radar, more ambiguous area of cybersecurity that also can have a really big impact, and maybe is a little bit less focused by the average person is not really as focused on it. And that's generally in software, the software supply chain. And the software supply chain is quite complex, and it can have massive impact on just kind of your daily lives if someone finds a way in to attack through this software supply chain and has kind of a broad impact on a heavily used software service or other service. And if you look at the statistics today, software that we're using often, if you look at how is that built, I think the statistic is like 90+% of it is actually open source software. So very little of the software, if you're working with a HubSpot or Salesforce, if you look at all the software under the hood that is driving those services, huge portions of it, they didn't write themselves. It's just all open source software or is coming from the software supply chain. And so really, it's not one company controlling all of the software they wrote, but one company that's using software that's written by thousands of people all over the place. And so that's 1,000 different areas that attackers can find a way in, and put a backdoor in or have some type of impact on a library that then is used inside of software that millions and millions of people throughout the world are relying on. And that can actually then impact that software and have pretty catastrophic effects. It was not a cyber attack, but you can see the dynamic with something, more recently, the CrowdStrike bug that was rolled out and had global impact on many industries. Just imagine if there was nefarious, purposely malicious bad actors out there that found a similar type path in that could have as big of an impact, but on purpose as the CrowdStrike bug had. So that I think is kind of a little bit under the radar and could have pretty catastrophic effects. The probability of that, the hope is we maintain it so it's not catastrophic. I think probability is high that we'll see those type of attacks. In fact, we see them. We've seen a number of examples in history of just being able to manage the impact of it to date. So let's hope we keep managing the impact of those type of attacks.
And letting our imaginations run away with ourselves a little bit more. Let's say 5 years from now, there's a global cyber attack, changes everything overnight. What role would you feel that DataTribe and maybe your startups have played in preventing or responding to it?
Yeah. Now, Jay, we're getting dark here, right? Just all, what are all the catastrophic possible ways that things could go bad? But over the next 5 years, if you look at the way that DataTribe looks at things, is we're often working with startups that have founders that many times have come out of the intelligence community or kind of other government situations where they have been kind of on the tip of the spear at looking at very over the horizon kind of nation state driven offensive efforts back and forth against each other. And so they're looking at what can have the biggest impact. And so I think that helps our companies to drive have a mission of solving some of the biggest areas and biggest problems in cybersecurity. We talked about critical infrastructure, and we have in our portfolio companies like Dragos that you mentioned earlier that is working on with power plants, with water utilities to help protect themselves. We even have our newest investment, Freynos, is also working in that. The OT, a lot of power companies as well, and so that is a big area. I talk about the software supply chain concern. We've had companies that a great example of that is a CodeX that has worked in what's called application security. So kind of looking at how you bring all of the scanning of your software to reduce software bugs, and so that also is kind of an area. And so I think we're continually looking a little bit over the horizon, so that over the next 5 years, what is going to be the biggest problem that needs to be solved in cybersecurity, and then we try to find companies that can do that.
And a more general sort of overview, how do you see the whole cybersecurity landscape evolving really, over say the next 10 years or so?
Yeah, no, I think it's that is an interesting interesting question. Where are things going? And if you look at cybersecurity, there's a dynamic where innovation, just general digital world innovation, creates almost like this wake. It's like kind of a speedboat going across the water, creates this big wake. The race to just build new innovation in the digital world is the speedboat. Cybersecurity is living in the wake. All right, what kind of new problems has this all created? And so really to understand what is it, even further out, like how is cybersecurity going to change? It's going to change based on how what kind of innovation is going on today in the digital world. And so if you look at today, I think it's illegal to have a podcast without mentioning AI. And so certainly, the AI is a huge amount of innovation going on in AI. It's a huge trend that's having impact. And so that I think is going to impact cybersecurity going forward. But also, I think other frontier technology, whether it's literally the frontier of space, right? There's a lot of commercial activity going on in kind of leveraging space that start shooting satellites up to do more and more communication direct with satellites. That is opening up new attack surfaces that you have to worry about. I think the Web3 and crypto space. Often there's a lot of focus around how that's impacting the financial rails, and which of course is always an area people are worried about because it involves money, and if an attacker can get in and steal some money, then they have great incentive to do the attack. But I have even a longer term view of how Web3 can really change the way that fundamentally change how software, the architecture of how software is deployed, and so really can start to have a general impact on the architecture of software, how it's built, and that again will start to drive needs to think about cybersecurity differently as well. So I think that's really bringing it back to, you just look at the biggest innovations that are going on in the digital world today, and that will start to give you insights as to where cybersecurity is going to need to go in the future.
Appreciate you sharing your predictions there. And I know Jay mentioned at the top of the session, you recently closed your third fund, so congratulations on that. Now, DataTribe combines a venture capital with startup studio model. How does this over-resourcing approach actually work in practice?
Yeah. So that it's So DataTribe, we look at ourselves part venture firm, part startup studio, and our goal is that we find a company that's super early, just getting started. As you mentioned, we got in with Dragos. It was three founders working out of our offices, just getting started. That's when we get involved. We generally like to see a company that has put together at least an MVP of a product. They have some idea of where they're going, but they don't necessarily need to have customers. Maybe they have their very first customer. That's when we like to get in, and we'll put in a pretty significant check to really give them some room to run. But then also we'll jump in and co-build with the founding team, and that kind of starts to be this hybrid of both a part venture firm, part startup studio. The interesting thing, if you look at a lot of startup studio models, will do a lot of ideation and then try to find founders and marry them together. And I think DataTribe, we have a philosophy where the founder coming together with an idea and having a passion around that is kind of like capturing lightning in a bottle. And so we kind of look for that to happen a little bit more organically. And then we work really hard to be there at the moment that the lightning is captured in the bottle, and then we're there to help. And so that's kind of our philosophy on things. And so the idea behind jumping in and over-resourcing, co-building. So we'll when we come in, we'll have two of our team members work on each company. One will take a little bit more of a strategic board member role, and then the other we have a position we call the team lead, and it's that person embeds themselves in with the company, working with them on a daily basis. And the goal there is with this over resource, with our team, and our team all have similar backgrounds as myself. So we've all spent most of our careers just building startups and kind of being in the shoes of the founders. And because of that, we've made a whole lifetime of mistakes, and so our goal is to, if we can help just our founders avoid one or two of those mistakes that we've made, then maybe we've done a pretty good job. And so by us, kind of being in there, if you look at it, kind of from a risk mitigation and financial viewpoint, we're looking to significantly increase the probability of going from that very, very early stage to really the next step, raising a gold cup A round, and then grow from there. And so we want to significantly increase the probability of that, and also accelerate things from the early days up to the A round. And the statistics so far show that we're able to do that. The probability of our companies making it to A is almost not quite, but almost double the industry average. And we also are 40-50% faster. I think the industry average to get to A, from kind of early stages up to A is about 2 years, and we're more like a year and a half on average.
That's a tremendous achievement. Hats off to you and the team there, especially with that proactive and sort of engaging approach. We see a lot of VCs being real standoff, where they may deploy junior talent to support organizations. So your partners tap into a wealth of experience.
Yeah. And I would say that some can be more spray and pray and kind of distribute their risk across a lot of different companies. Others do, particularly the early stage, they do a lot of work to help the companies. I don't want to say we're the only ones helping the companies, but I think there's a line that we cross where we're trying to embed ourselves in to the company enough to where, if you look at the others that can really try to provide help, even though they're providing help, often the founder needs to say, hey, I need help with this. And then they'll jump in and help. Our goal is we're so embedded in that we actually understand the problems in parallel with the founders and the founding team, so that they're not even needing to ask. We're saying, look, we're seeing these are the challenges you're running into. You need help probably in these areas. We'll go do that. You don't even need to ask. And so that's the level that we're trying to get to.
That's great. It's great to hear that you're rolling out your sleeves there in that respect. And I know in some other interviews you've mentioned founder DNA is everything. So what are the key traits and signals that you look for, in your opinion, in the team, knowing that whether they'll make it or not?
Yeah. No, it's from our experience as startup founders and kind of working with other teams, we know there's a lot of risk. It's hard to predict whether kind of how markets are going to play out. Certainly you need to look at that and do a lot of market analysis, but you know that the team is going to be very important. And I think I've been at DataTribe now for 6 years. Every year that goes by, it seems that there's increased realization. We thought team was really almost everything. No, it's even more almost every. Team is everything. It's if you get a team that can handle the dynamics of figuring out where to need to go, they could be a little bit off in their trajectory on where's the right direction of where the market is going. And if they're the right team, they can make the adjustments. And so that's what you want to look for. But in terms of the DNA and kind of the types of traits you look for in a team, in founders, there's a very interesting dynamic, is that founders are entering into a very high risk, hopefully a good reward. But really, if you look at the risk reward ratio, it was way too much risk for the reward that you might, probability of the reward you might get out of startups. So startup founders have to be a little bit crazy, right? Like they just almost like kind of irrational to a point of being irrational around the confidence they have in themselves to go into this thing that, like, all the statistics and everybody is going to tell you this is probably a bad idea, but you believe in yourself so much that I'm going to make it a good idea for me. I'm going to succeed in this situation where, like, most everybody else fails. And so the founders need to have a lot of drive and a huge amount of confidence. And so you can often find founders that have that, but maybe almost too much, right? And so you have to find the founder that hit the right balance, where they've got the confidence in themselves, but are still very open to learning, realize they don't know everything, and that they're going to need help from others. We boil that down. We call that coachability. And so we're often looking for kind of the coachability trait in the founding team, in addition to that kind of the crazy confidence side as well, that exists. So
I appreciate you sharing. And obsession is something that comes to mind when I meet with founders, especially those that like to scale, like to succeed, pivot onto the next challenge after a couple of years, for instance. And looking back at your career, was there perhaps a defining moment or a lesson or challenge that you overcome that influenced the way that you lead and support other founders now?
Yeah, I think the natural motion that I had, and kind of the others at DataTribe have from being founders is jump in and help as much as possible, right? And that is our model. When we're working with new founders, we need to jump in and help, but we need to find kind of a new balance for ourselves, at least, how do we help the founders, but not end up kind of being overbearing and like, oh, we're going to jump in and try to run everything ourselves. And so we have to find a balance when working with the founders on that. Some of the things that I found from being a founder myself, kind of going back to the founders being open to learning and being able to particularly learn how to delegate and expand a team, right? And so often, a startup founder has this passion, has this focus that enables them to see a new opportunity. And so they're likely subject matter experts in an area like cybersecurity or other technology areas. They're likely very technical and have insights in exactly how they're going to build a solution to a problem that they see. And so oftentimes the founding teams have don't have a problem in terms of understanding how to build the solution to the problem they see, but they may not have, they're not completely ambidextrous in terms of I know how to do everything to build a company, right? They may, oftentimes sales and marketing is not necessarily their forte, and they may not be so lucky to have a kind of a founding team where they're fully rounded on every aspect of what you need to build out a company. And so that's an area that we're often helping the founders with is how do you expand in the areas that maybe you're not as strong in. Oftentimes it's understanding the strategy around marketing and messaging and kind of how do you go from how do you sell, period, or a lot of times there's this delicate transition in a startup where in the very early days the way it's going to succeed is the founding team is doing the selling, right? They've built something, they're out, they're talking with the customers, they're doing the selling. This is great because they've got the passion and it's going to come out in the sales process and get everybody excited. Also, they get that perfect feedback loop, right? Like they are the ones that are understanding how to build the product and they're talking with the customers, getting the feedback from the customers and can immediately shift. But as you grow, at some point, you're going to have a sales team that's selling for you, and it's no longer founder-led sales. That transition often can be a bit of a bumpy ride, and it's difficult to do that transition in a perfectly smooth way. You can either go too early, where the founders they get some traction, they feel like, okay, now it's time to. I need help. I need to bring in a salesperson, but salespeople often have to have things a little bit like decently defined. Like the salesperson is not necessarily going to be a perfect expert in the product they've built, and you have to have the materials and like a little bit of a pattern that you've seen. Like this is how the sales process will work for our product, so that the new salesperson that comes in can understand that pattern rather than trying to figure it out for themselves. Like they will very much struggle if they have to try to figure that out themselves. There needs to be a little bit of maturity around the process there for that to succeed. So
I'm really excited to share with our audience that you're going to be launching your 8th annual DataTribe Challenge. It's set for this November the 4th. I understand you're moving it to Washington, D.C. to be part of the Cyber Innovation Day. And all entrants, perhaps our listeners, for instance, need to get their entrance in before September the 12th. And we can certainly share more details on that in the show notes, both across YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. But Leo, can you tell us more about DataTribe Cybersecurity Startup Challenge and how it's evolved since launching 8 years ago?
Yeah, no, as you mentioned, eighth annual. So we've been doing it a number of years, and historically we have run the event in our offices. We have pretty good size offices with a nice event space in Maryland. It's kind of on the East Coast. It's kind of between Baltimore and Washington D.C. So not necessarily in the center of a large city, more kind of between two. And so this kind of as we've matured, we've decided this year is time to really expand the event and really start to make it a tent pole for not only the Washington D.C. metro area, but hopefully over a few years build it to be a large kind of East Coast U.S. Event that pulls people not just locally, but kind of nationally throughout the U.S. and globally as well. As you mentioned, we have we do take submissions from people all around the world. We've had submissions from the UK and throughout Europe and Israel, Australia, and then of course a large number of submissions in the US. But historically, in terms of the people actually attending the event, it has been mostly a little bit more local oriented. And so this year, moving it down to a pretty good size venue in the Washington D.C. area, downtown in Washington D.C., and are pushing to have more people involved and get more people from around the nation and hopefully even globally to come in for the area. So we're expanding it to be an all-day event, and the overall event we're calling Cyber Innovation Day. And then in the afternoon, the DataTribe Challenge pitch competition event will be the main attraction in the afternoon. But it is, the DataTribe Challenge really is more than just a pitch competition. It's a a whole program. As you mentioned, submissions are open now. We just opened just last week, so now's the time. Get your submission in. But we collect submissions for throughout the summer. You get hundreds and hundreds of submissions. We boil that down to top 20, and then all the way down to 5 finalists. The 5 finalists go through a program with us. So we'll assign each one of our startup veterans that are at DataTribe will be assigned as a coach to each of the 5 finalists, and we'll go through a number of weeks coaching them, working on their messaging, working on overall. This is kind of how you want to structure your pitch to really get across to help you with your fundraising. But then, of course, also you will be running through the pitch at the event, and it starts to be a little bit not just a competition between the 5 finalists, but a competition between the 5 coaches as well, who can coach to be the winner. And so it's a lot of fun around working with the finalists, and then it's a great event on November 4th this year down in Washington, D.C. So.
No, it certainly sounds like a great event. I've seen some images and heard some feedback from entrants in previous years, so we certainly will look to make some recommendations to those here in the UK and across Europe. And tell us a little bit more about how you evaluate and select the winner of the overall process.
Yeah. So it's as I mentioned, we do get a pretty good volume of winners. We and so we have as you can imagine, is the team. The team really is the selection committee. The team at DataTribe. We also do bring in. Well, I'll step through the process. So the team is first running through all of the submissions, really evaluating things on is the idea over the horizon, kind of how big the market is, of course, as we talked about, how important the team is. So who is the team? Do they have good subject matter expertise? Is there a good team founder market fit, right? Are the founders not only a great team overall, but also do their background really shows that they understand the market that they're working in? Do they have a really compelling value prop? So we evaluate on all of those and boil it down to probably about the top 20 or so, and then we start to the next layer of filtering. And it's at that point we'll start to not just be evaluating with our own team, but we have a number of networks with DataTribe. So we have a CISO network, which is a whole network of cybersecurity tech executives, cybersecurity officers, and also we have another group we call the Brain Trust, who are actually not just visionaries and cyber executives in large cyber product companies, but also are investors in DataTribe, and so they have a little bit of skin in the game, and so they want to see things succeed at DataTribe, and so we'll discuss with these groups as well and get their feedback on some of the kind of the boiled down short list of top contenders, and then through that process we'll bring down to the top 5 finalists, which then we go through the whole coaching program that I talked about.
No, it sounds well structured and thought out. And what does winning mean for startups in terms of their trajectory? And could you perhaps share a success story, something that stand out from previous challenges?
Yeah, no, definitely. So it's in addition to the coaching, there's quite a bit of exposure, and both from a potential PR and marketing. We've got programs where we'll have interviews with the finalists through different kind of marketing and local and national journalistic outlets, and then just kind of the event itself, quite a bit of exposure. We'll have handfuls and handfuls of different venture firms all at the event. And so in addition to just DataTribe, there's many other venture firms that can help you in your fundraising process. And we push really hard the group. So one of the things I didn't mention about the event is we really try to control the attendees, and it is a somewhat exclusive invite only event to get into the event. And so really the types of people we're looking are cyber oriented venture firms, obviously the cyber startups, and then cyber executives, CISOs, that type. Those are the main groups that we're really pushing to get to the event. So not only do you have the fundraising exposure, but also exposure to potential customers with all of the tech execs that are and cyber kind of CISOs and cyber execs at large enterprises that may be at the event. So that's kind of all the possible upside of being a finalist. Of course, the winner gets bragging rights, and we have so it's not guaranteed, but there is a pattern historically where we have invested in all of the winners today, so that's an opportunity as well. So a good example of a success story, and I'll choose the one. There's a company that's I guess it was the our second DataTribe challenge in 2019. The winner there was a company CodeX. We invested in CodeX. They were, as I think I mentioned a little bit earlier, that so CodeX was in the application security space, aggregating. So if you're a large enterprise and you're building in a lot of software, security scanning, fuzzing tools, and you'll have a whole suite of all sorts of tools that you're using to find basically software bugs that could turn into vulnerabilities and others kind of security aspects. It can be it starts to get overwhelming. These tools are notorious for being pretty noisy. And so to generate endless alerts for developers to look at, oftentimes duplicating from one tool to another tool, giving you kind of similar alerts that look different, but in the end, it's really the same problem. And so CodeX will aggregate all of this together and then prioritize so that the developers can really just focus on and dedupe and so on. So they can just focus on the top items. CodeX was a very interesting story. They spun out of a small, really professionals, like a consulting company, a technology consulting company based in Long Island, New York. And when we met them, they were just spinning out. We after we invested, we helped them complete that and grow. CodeX was a great success in that they grew quickly. They just in a matter of under 2 years, probably a year and a half time frame. They had a few million in ARR. They were all ready for a Series A. Started raising their Series A. Had a number of interesting offers, but around that time, they also got an offer inbound from Synopsis to acquire the company. And we often are when we look at companies, we're looking for companies like a kind of over the horizon, really, really big impact companies. So you're really believing, hey, this could be a $1 billion outcome type of company. But really in a relatively short amount of time, and under 2 years, the offer that Synopsis had given for the team and really for DataTribe, it was hard to say no to. And so they were acquired by Synopsis. Anita D'Amico, who is the CEO and founder at CodeX, and the whole team joined in Synopsis. And CodeX became really kind of a cornerstone within the suite in Synopsis. And so even within the acquired company, there was a lot of success for Anita and the team there, where they were an important glue between all of the product suite that Synopsis had as CodeX. So yeah, it was a great outcome. We like to talk about the CodeX success story. So.
Well, congratulations to all involved, and to our audience. As I mentioned in the show notes, there's going to be a link for you to actually submit any entrants, get those in before September the 12th. And good luck moving forward, Leo, with the event. We look forward to learning about what innovations are showcased, and of course, what the future is going to look like.
Yeah, we'll let you know.
And from an investment landscape perspective, we've talked a fair bit about the cybersecurity poverty line for a lot of existing organizations, but let's talk a little bit more about investment into the sector. Now, what's the current state of cybersec investment? How's it shifted in the last few years?
Yeah. So I guess in the short term, the early stage cyber investing has followed some of the trends of general early stage tech investing. As many of your audience members may know and have felt over the last few years, there was kind of a peak in 2021 of early stage investing overall, and the few years that followed that was a little bit of a downtrend. We've seen that. You can see that in the number of deals and the amount of money invested in call it seed and A rounds in general, and cybersecurity has followed that trend a bit. Even though I'll get into in a minute, I think the strategy of investing in cyber, just in kind of today's kind of ecosystem, geopolitical situation, and just the state of the world and how everything is all driven by the digital world, it's a pretty good bet. But in 2024, we did start to see a bit of a turnaround in the cybersecurity market. In the early stage, the number of deals started to kind of stop dropping, started to increase a little bit. We'll see if that continues here in 2025. So kind of in the short term, that's what we've seen. A little bit of the philosophy of DataTribe, we're focused on cybersecurity investing. You might ask, why cybersecurity? What's special about cybersecurity as kind of an investment opportunity? And that gets into the broader kind of decade-long trends. I think it was probably more than a decade ago. It's almost a cliche term now, but Andreessen Horowitz, A16Z, Mark Andreessen, I think, had come out with the phrase, the software is eating the world. And that was 10 plus years ago. And everybody likes to talk about software eating the world. Well, it has. It's completed the meal. It has completely engulfed the whole world. Software is driving everything. And so really, if you look at it, people are now, they're living a huge portion of their lives in the digital world. And so you figure, okay, well, if you're living in this digital world, you want to live in a world that is, safe, pretty reliable, secure. And what is that? That's cybersecurity, right? And so if everybody is now living a heavy amount of their lives in the digital world, then you can imagine the importance of cybersecurity. And that is, I think, driving an opportunity to where cyber generally will outperform the market overall. At least we believe it will going forward. I think. In addition, there are other trends like, in addition to generally outperforming, also there are trends like geopolitical dynamics that can kind of increase, that is different. You can have more, oftentimes we're seeing it today, maybe there's a bit more geopolitical tension going on in the world today than there has been in the past. That tension can drive the need for more more need for cybersecurity as nation states start being more and more aggressive towards each other, and in today's world, so cyber is a key front for military, which on one side can be frustrating. Where now there's companies being many commercial companies being attacked directly by nation states. I guess the positive side of that is if that's maybe decreasing the amount of kinetic warfare. There might be some positives there, in that kinetic warfare can actually lead to more death. But we have to be careful. Cyber can, as we talked about earlier, can have impact on physical world, also cause similar type of problems. But that geopolitical climate can also make it to where cyber is not always perfectly correlated with the general market. And so that also it makes it an interesting space for people to invest in. It's where generally I think better than the market on average, and then also may not always correlate to the market. And so it makes it a very, very interesting investment. So
yeah, and I think Warren and I we've seen with a lot of the organizations that there's obviously AI, machine learning is reshaping the whole cybersecurity startup landscape. And I think it's also had a bit of an impact on a lot of organizations of what they want to invest in, making sure they choose wisely. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah. So cyber there's two sides of it. Yeah. AI is, again, it's hard to not talk a lot about the AI trend these days. From a cyber viewpoint,
I didn't want to disappoint you by not having an AI
exactly right. There's two sides for cyber. One, the impact is how AI is being used to help improve cyber solutions, and then also in cyber being kind of there's two sides, this adversarial dynamic. How are the good actors using it? How are the bad actors using it? Which increases the concern around cyber attacks. But there's also, as we talked about, every big innovation, there's a wake. And so for cyber, there's also just, hey, AI is creating a new attack surface, not necessarily just being used by bad actors, but also it's just new areas that have to be protected in new ways. And so we see that dynamic, on both sides of that dynamic. I mean, these days, almost all of our portfolio companies, as you can imagine, are using AI one way or another, whether it's helping them in their development efforts or just in their products themselves, enhancing the products, but improving the way that they can defend in their specific area. But also there are companies where, and we're still looking for even new companies now. I mean, this is a big area that we're looking for a new company in kind of new ways that they're solving the AI, kind of the new attack surface dynamics that AI is generating. We've talked with quite a few deepfake companies. It's always an interesting topic, and I think a deepfake is an interesting space. If you look at it over the last few years, and we've been talking with companies in the space for a few years. The early days, it was very much we're just trying to detect. We're likely using AI to detect the AI-driven deepfakes, and just so that we know what's a deepfake and what's not. We generally had a hard time seeing how that was going to be a permanent solution. And that, as you can imagine, as AI gets better and better, I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're human or a computer. It's like literally on a pixel by pixel basis, you get to a point where there is almost no difference between an actual recording of a real event or one that's been generated. And so you really have to move to the next level. How do you prove or provide trust in the provenance of where something came from? And that I think there's interesting solutions, both in terms of just kind of understanding where content came from, but also it's just video, photos, and this kind of rich media that is generally people talk about when we're talking about deepfakes are used. It's humans historically for 150 years have been used to trusting these formats that this is a photo, and the only way historically you could generate a photo that looks like this is an actual photo of a real life scene, right? And so it must be a recording of something real, or it must be a video of something real, and that's no longer the case. And so it's just changing the dynamics of how humans find heuristics and signal that provide them trust in things. And so it's really changing the dynamic of trust, has a lot of impact in authentication, down to as simple as, financial institutions have used voice recognition as part of their authentication on phone calls. That's no longer, something you can rely on. Zoom calls, there's, I'm sure everybody in your audience has probably heard about the North Koreans embedding themselves into companies because you can't tell the difference on a Zoom call, and that they're getting hired and are representing themselves as somebody else. And so all of these things are a big attack surface that we're looking at. Data leakage from AI is another a big one, where AI is being trained on huge amounts of knowledge. Whether it's accidental or just its ability to scrape and pull as much information in as possible. There's information in some of these models that may be purposely trained in, so it can help answer solutions and solve problems for companies. But then, if the wrong people are able to query the models and are doing so maliciously, they may be able to get the models to leak data out to people that shouldn't be getting that data. And so there's a lot of concerns around the data leakage. And even to a point, nowadays, as models are even more dynamically being trained just by activity through not just continual refinement, but literally reinforcement learning layers on top of the large language models today, are continually pulling in more and more information. It adds for kind of the concept of data poisoning, where people are purposely interacting with models in ways to warp the model to get it to do bad things. And so all of these are interesting security for AI, right? So
thanks for sharing a little bit more about the sort of AI deep tech, and of course we know this is going to be a key part of the balance between cutting edge innovation and real world deployable solutions within your portfolio. For those looking to engage with DataTribe and its network, what qualities or values do you tend to prioritize the most when building these partnerships there?
Yeah. And as I mentioned, the coachability of the team is super important, oftentimes when we're working with the team, they're needing to learn how to expand beyond just kind of being subject matter experts. And one of the challenges we often see when working with cybersecurity oriented founders is, cybersecurity can have a lot of hackers, right? I mean, that's kind of their expertise. They're really good at finding problems. They're finding ways to use software in ways that were not expected. At DataTribe, we're very focused on building startups that are product oriented, startups that are selling into the commercial world, and it's often a big learning curve for these startup founders to understand that kind of the hacking and kind of this hacker mentality is not necessarily the same thing as what you need to do to build a great product, and understanding what product management is. And so there's a lot of focus on helping these cyber-oriented founders understand what it takes to understand a problem set and then build a product well architected from the ground up into a solution that can be used by everybody in the commercial world. So.
And how do you support these deep tech founders who do face that lengthy, protracted development cycle before they actually see any commercial success? How does DataTribe support?
Yeah. We, by us inherently getting in very early, we need to have a long horizon for how long it's going to take for them to really get going, and it all gets back to a couple of things I had mentioned earlier. One, we put in a decent size check to really try to ensure that they have enough runway to get some initial traction, and then it's through kind of the help of our team that we can really help drive the founding team and the company through the early days of building the engines that are needed to have a company that can start to generate revenue and hopefully eventually become a profitable company. And so this is examples of that are again kind of getting the product out into market, understanding how to build a sales engine and a marketing engine, having our team kind of be more hands-on with that in the beginning, and then understanding how our team can maybe transition some of the help we're doing to new people coming into the company as we focus on team building, right? So we've got the beginnings of the company, and now let's build the people that can start to build the engines that become the company going forward.
And in terms of building a startup, what's a big misconception that you wish many more people actually understood in before they got into it? Yeah.
I think the mentality of founders is important. I mean, if you look at kind of even from almost a work-life balance viewpoint, like founders need to understand it's not going to be a sprint. This startup experience, this is a marathon, and so you've got to make sure you're running at the right pace. If you're looking at what their expectation is, I mean, the reality founders need to understand is this is not a romanticized. Often it can be romanticized, the kind of the startup experience, and it's not. It can be a pretty rough experience. So we literally call the DataTribe Foundry, right? And if you look at kind of what are other things that you call foundries, like it can be a place where you're molting steel and forming, big structures. It can be a dirty, dangerous place. And so the DataTribe Foundry can be a dirty, dangerous place. And people need to understand going in that it's going to be a little bit of a roller coaster ride. It is going to engulf a large portion of your life. And so you need to make sure you're ready for that. But then at the same time, you need to make sure that you understand how to pace yourself, right? When running a marathon, you don't want your heart rate to get to like the 70, 80%, but you do want it to get to the 60%. Like you want to find just the right line and just run it there. And that's what you've got to try to do with a startup. So,
and just on I suppose one of the topics we talk about a lot, mental health, work-life balance, these are becoming increasingly critical. What advice or support do you encourage for startup leaders?
Yeah, as I mentioned, you have to go in with the right attitude, but then manage yourself so you don't get burnt out. I mean, I think that's pretty important. Also, you're going to be dealing with a lot of people around the table as you build more investors and more board members. And our hope is, at least in the beginning days, we can come in with a very founder-friendly approach, and kind of in a way that we're as real as possible, and it kind of naturally is a little bit natural for our team, is that we've all been in the founder's shoes before, and so we can show empathy in a truly authentic way. Like, we know what they're going through, and so we can work with them to help them both from a practical skill set and team building viewpoint, but also preparing themselves mentally for what they're headed for. And so we work a lot with them to understand what they're going to be seeing in their journey as they continue to bring others in place.
So, Leo, what does the future hold for you personally?
Yeah, so the DataTribe, we earlier this year closed our third fund, and we raised as a $42 million fund, and we're excited to have that fundraising effort behind us. We have during the time of raising that fund, we've invested in a good number of companies, 5 companies out of that fund so far, and so we have a number of companies left, but it won't be all that far away that we'll start to be looking at our fourth fund, and that'll be kind of mid to late 2026. And so we're working with the team and to find our next few investments, and then we'll be looking to raise another fund. But even before that, building out events like a bigger DataTribe challenge is something we get to focus on here now that we're not quite as focused on the fundraising and the company building all at the same time. So
that sounds really exciting. We're looking forward to seeing what comes out over the next sort of 12 to 24 months. And for our listeners who want to stay connected beyond Secure CyberConnect community platform, how else can they reach out to you? How can they hear from you in the future, Leo?
Yeah. I mean, you can get a hold of me through the DataTribe website, datatribe.com, and also probably the best is on LinkedIn, where I'm most active in terms of social media platforms, most active on LinkedIn. So you can look me up.
That's brilliant. Well, look, hopefully we can have you back in the near future as part of the live stream panel discussions, perhaps some of your founders joining us. But really enjoyed today's session.
Yeah, it was great. Great being here, and thank you so much for having me. It's great talking with you guys, Jay and Warren. So
thank you, Leo. Very much appreciate your time, and big appreciation from the communities and all our listeners who have found a huge amount of value in today's session. So thank you very much, and we look forward to future collaborations with you and talking again. If you're struggling with technological, cultural, or talent acquisition challenges, please reach out to the Secure CyberConnect team, where we offer advice and guidance and are here to help.